Alright guys, welcome back to the Kaiju 8 video. Today we're doing a day 1 tier list for two main reasons. One, I kind of love when I watch Marvel rival content creators and look back and seeing how they rank their characters in the early seasons. And I've done this a few times when I play other gacha games, and it's always fun to see if more importantly towards the 4 stars, the lower characters that you kind of sleep on a little bit, to see if any of them kind of raise up because they have a secret mechanic or a secret feature that you kind of unlock later on as you progress through the game when it comes to story content. I will say right now, we are definitely focused on the early game, which is mostly just clearing through story bosses. I think around prestige 2, I think is what they call it, or stage 2. When you get towards a level 15 plus, you then unlock the Kaiju boss fights, and at that point, that is where certain characters that focus more on single target might become a bit more relevant when it comes towards the game. So yeah, once again, we're still progressing, but I do think when it comes to the general use, I think this is pretty accurate, right? Of course, I've not used the full extent of these characters because you do have to get them towards level 60. So I think once we get the weapons equipped, once we get them towards fully maxed out dupes, that's when we're going to start to see the max potential when it comes towards these characters, right? So let me know in the comments who you've been using, who you've been having fun with. I think for me, Reno's just goated, bro. He's goated. Okay, we'll start with a 5-star, because I think that's what most of you lot care about. So let's start with, I guess, Kafka, right? Kafka is easily the best character in the game. So one cool thing about the Kaiju characters, so more towards Kaiju 8 and maybe Kaiju 9 if he ever becomes playable. I'm not too sure about the other Kaijus. I haven't read the manga. Don't want to know. Don't tell me. But when you can play as a playable Kaiju, or maybe just some characters come in the future, if they don't have weapons, or even in this case, I think even armor, right? Because you can't apply armor towards the characters. Because of that, they get a little bit of a stat boost early on because, well, they don't have, obviously, armor or weapons. So because of that, just picking them up, frame 1, just starting your account, you're going to have so much more value because it's just so much better in a way than every other character. Once again, it's possible once we start maxing out characters dupes as well, that eventually when it comes towards other characters, they might become or overtake him because of obviously the armor and the stats you can manipulate a little bit. But off the bat, Kaiju A, it's just obviously to go to. We're not going to go into full details for every character because it would be a very long video that over 21 characters. But I think the main takeaway is that he's a big damage dealer, big single target as well. More importantly, he is off the, I don't know what he call it, I need to learn him a little bit, but the blast, this brown attribute, which does class like a neutral one, which is very good too. One of the cool things a little bit is when a miniaturized class Kaiju is below 50% HP, he just automatically kills him with his unyielding fist, his skill 2, which is actually pretty sick actually. So it does, even it doesn't matter what level, how tanky they are, right? It's so when it comes to clearing content, this is a pretty good skill to have, and yeah, all of his skills apply this blast, which is actually pretty sick. But yeah, overall, just a pretty good single target damage dealer. Definitely pick up Kaiju 8. You're not gonna regret it, right? Then we'll move in towards, Reno. Let's talk about Reno. So hopefully you'll appreciate the effort I put in towards this tier list. I actually went in Photoshop and made all of these little icons myself to make it so it's not really bad quality for you lot. But Reno, of course, being the first banner character, is actually very good. My battery's about to die. We're gonna be quick here. But essentially, we kind of knew from Narumi that he would be very good because he does have the double attribute, which was the blast and I think slash one, which you can see right here a little bit. He's got the hit one, so range basically. But of course, we did see in the little gameplay preview that he does have ice power. So we kind of thought straight away this guy is probably likely to be very good because he is the first 5-star that has an actual element, which I believe, or stage, is it stage 2? I think the final boss on the stage 2, I think he has an actual requirement where you have to bring an elemental character. So already there, Reno has already kind of got on a big value. But one thing we didn't realize, or at least I didn't realize a little bit, is when the characters have 2 attributes, they actually count twice if it's applicable to break the plates. Now, of course, the ice one doesn't count as a standard one, but we get towards Narumi. Narumi is an absolute godly character when it comes towards breaking and exposing cores. He's literally, I mean, we'll get towards him, right? But yeah, one possible, all of his skills are able to break 2 plates, which is just adds so much more value, right? Think about it. Some characters have to use 2 turns to break 2 plates, where characters like, obviously, Narumi and Reno can just do it in 1 hit. He has got really cool abilities that I don't want to get too much into detail a little bit, like I just say, because we don't know the full extent of it, but the ice crystals are very powerful a little bit because it does go towards the adjacent characters. His ultimate can also freeze, not guaranteed, but has a small chance. I've noticed it's pretty cool, which once again can skip turns. When it comes towards boss fights, very powerful. So yeah, Reno is undoubtedly going in towards the S tier. Next one. So a lot of people sleeping on Narumi, and they're going to notice it when you play with him. He's actually just so good, right? So, like I just say, he is our second, or would have been the first character, but Reno came out. He's a second character with 2 attributes, and it's so powerful, especially towards his kit. When it comes towards breaking and exposing cores, literally, you need to do that. That's the whole point of the game. So the fact that you can use him to instantly destroy 2 plates, it's super powerful. Also got AoE attacks too, which is even better, because I believe it does also apply towards the left and right characters, or the adjacent, right? So if you attack the left, he's only going to go towards the middle one. So So if you are attacking the middle, it will go left and right. But as you can see, it's a 45% or deals damage, and then deals a little bit additional damage towards the adjacent ones, which I believe also apply the 2 plate removal, which I think is like super powerful. Once again, ultimate, that also deals damage towards adjacent characters. You're kind of getting a little 2-for-1 as well. And if you look at what the character does, his ultimate just increased damage as well. When he attacks characters that have a core exposed, he does more damage as well. And also this one, a little bit annoying, is to become last actually, but when you cause a Kaiju to expose their core by a combat skill, you advance this unit's action, so you get like a 20% speed buff basically. So I think already you can kind of see the guaranteed value. You're just exposing cores, whether that be in boss fights or whether that be for actual normal stages. It should help just a bit to stun them, get them weak enough to where you can do more damage, and then follow up with other characters. If you guys have made this far, there are over 70% of you guys that have simply not subscribed and you're watching this video. So if you can please hit that button, because I'm going to be making the best Kaiju number 8 content of 2025. You know what? I think we're going to make an SS tier, because I don't think I really want to put the legendaries like in B tier, because if we just have the S tier. So we'll move it towards the next 2. We'll start with Mina. Mina is basically a boss killer, right? So, you know, we'll kind of group both of these together, because they are very much the same, right, in a sense of how they play. So what they are doing is focusing on buffing up, where Mina does focus on buffing herself up for a big nuke with a crit. We'll talk more about that in a second. And then ISO is doing that similar, but also buffing his team up to where he buffs up himself, right? So we go towards Mina. You can see what she does do is just all about being a big nuker. I think the most important thing is just focus buff a little bit. Is when she does stack them 3 times, she does then get a 100% crit rate, which means you can then do a pretty big nuke with the ultimate. So that's kind of the gimmick of the character. It's kind of cool actually, because it kind of works how she works in anime, where you want to like not stall, but you reload basically, right? To buff up to when you get more damage, and then once you get 3 stacks, you can then hopefully either do a single target pierce shot or do a single target damage with the ultimate. And it's a pretty simple character. There's nothing really to it. You buff up, you get your crit buff, you then do a big nuke with the ultimate. That is the character. That is why she's kind of better when it comes to a single target content like boss fights. That is, I think, where she's going to shine a little bit more. So it's kind of why you can see she's not more general use than the big boys at the top, where she might be a better damage dealer in some specific contents, but you can still use these generally. And then same goes for ISO. He's actually not as selfish as Mina, because what he does do in this Astral Solid stance is apply it towards all allies, so you get defense, right? So you'll be attacked more. I think definitely later on we get more complex bosses, this might be get a bit more value, but right now probably definitely not needed too much. And then basically when he buffs up, he gets his shield, then he starts obviously doing more stuff as well, to where you can then do some big, once again, damage with the ultimate. Kind of cool, because it does scale off the unit's defense, which means in the possible future, if we get other characters to support the defensive like characters, then ISO could get more buffs and hopefully be a lot better as well. But he also does give damage dealt towards allies as well, which, you know, you have more ways to support the team a little bit. Once again, I think this is more towards boss content. You don't really care about, I mean, you do care too much. I mean, you do a little bit, but you don't really care too much when it comes to the normal stages and clearing story contents. And I think someone tells your Tower Trials a little bit, so maybe at that point it'll be a bit better. But once again, I think these 2 are definitely pretty like big nukes in boss fights, right? And then of course we have Kikaru, Rin. I don't want to move Rin down. I don't think anyone's below B tier. But these are, once again, I think in a similar situation a little bit, because what these 3 are doing is not specializing as much as the top 3. But once again, in comparisons, when you have their own stuff, they are pretty good too. So it's not Rin, because she actually is very simple actually. She's just a AoE farmer. That's simple as what the character does, right? You can see what she does is each time you defeat a Kaiju, you can get ultimate, and an ultimate, because she is doing AoE skills, hopefully she's defeating 3 in 1 swipe, basically, to where you can then get 60% ultimate charge straight away. And also the ultimate is AoE. The skill 2 is AoE as well. Her follow-up attack, so if you want to bring like the Rumi, because the Rumi can easily break cores, her follow-up attack would then be the AoE skill, which once again, if she defeats Kaijus, then she can get ultimate as well. And just for attacking, the unit simply gets max or just damage dealt towards herself, right? Just attacking characters. She does an AoE, I believe it does max out 3 times, so only after like 2 skills, you're completely fully maxed out. When you're clearing for a story content, you're most time going to have more HP, so you just get a flat 20% attack buff. Like I say, nothing, and look, 60% ultimate charge too. Like, it's such a simple character, but it's just AoE abilities. That's all you care about when it comes to a story content. But when you come towards actual bosses, you're probably not going to do too much. Okay, Kikaru and Hoshino. I think we might be sleeping a little bit on these 2 characters, but once again, I think they're just like kind of I mean, you're able to use them. So what she does do, She has got some AoE abilities, very much like the Rumi in a sense, where skill 1 single target, skill 2 is AoE as well, but you don't have that dual actual, plate breaks like Rumi has. So like that's kind of why she falls down a little bit. So she got some AoE, which can be good for clone contents. She's also got some pretty good, like this tip-top shape one is pretty good because when she maxed out, she gets attack and crit damage as well, which I think will be decent. So that's what I mean. She's kind of like she's usable. She's got single target AoE. She's going to be decent when it comes to those normal content. But when in boss fight, she has that, little bit of a Mina passive where she stacks up her buffs. She then gets a little bit of attack buff. But it's not as good as I believe as Mina. And she's even got like the Kaiju 8 skill 2 passive where you win the 50% or lower. Granted, it's just Kaiju. So it could be towards bosses, but that's like the big thing, right? You have to get the character down towards 50%, which I mean will be good because it just goes towards any other character or any other skill. But if you are using like Mina, for example, you want to get a big nuke where Kikaru has to be below 50%, or the Kaiju does, but at least it does work towards the big ones. All right, Hoshino, once again, a bit of a tricky one to rank a little bit because this guy is all about critting and crit damage, and we've seen these before in other gacha games, right? The speeders, I mean, literally what you expect the character to do: have really fast speed, have really high crit chance of crit damage. It's kind of what this character does. You can see he does get the crit rate and crit damage buff as well. And I think at that point, he could scale really well once we get in towards like a really max out level when we start like actually optimizing a bit more. Because I think obviously crit units just naturally, I think, age a little bit better because you can really abuse it, especially when you get characters the buff up crit damage and other stuff like that, right? So I think once again, for Hoshino, it's not a bad pick. I think once again, he's probably more likely to age better. But you can kind of see how we ranked our actual, characters. Just the general use characters, best boss fight characters, and then the ones that are like really good in boss fights, really good in normal stages, but don't or might not excel just in one actual phase, right? So that is all of our 5-star ranked. It's not really in order. I think they just, you can kind of think of whatever you want. All right, let's now move in towards the actual 4 stars. I think we just kind of group rank them a little bit. So what we're gonna do right now is move up, kind of like literally what I thought is move up the character of elements. This, once again, you have to bring characters that can apply special resistance ones, and luckily right now we do have obviously Ichikawa, Reno, so we don't actually have to rely on the 4 stars too much. But when you do find bosses, and you will find bosses that need to require you to use elements, then any of these characters will do. I think some are better than others, but I think in general use in the game, they're going to get pretty more value just because you can bring them. I'm not too sure if any bosses so far require a specific element, but when one does say you need to bring fire damage, then you only have one fire character, that is just going to give instant value towards pretty much all these characters. We're going to also move up, what's her name? I think it's Akari. She is, I think, the only healer in the game, right? So if you need a healer, I don't think you don't have to rely too much on them, then she is where you basically use her. All right, and then when it comes to other characters, I think we move Kakura up because he does transform into actual Kaiju 8, which is kind of a cool mechanic a little bit, and he does get some ultimate back, so you're not just wasting time a little bit. He also does turn in towards that actual, it doesn't show it actually, but it turns in towards this blast hit one, so you actually have a character, it's just a worse version of Kafka, right, or Kaiju 8, so it's just, yeah, he's like, you can use him if you literally don't have a single person. I guess you can have obviously, Hasegawa, you can have him that actually applies it, but he does all this skills, so it's actually pretty decent. Then we have Hachiru, I think he's pronounced. I saw someone point it out, and I kind of agree a little bit. I think he's might be the only character in the game that can buff from me, basically. So you randomly remove one buff when he does use the ultimate, which it's not useful at all, basically, right? But like that's his only use, I think. And then the final characters, honestly, I don't know what Rio does. I don't have him, so I actually don't know what he does do. So apologies for the Rio fans. I think that's his name. If I said it properly, I'd probably piss them off even more. But yeah, when it comes to all these ones, I think from the looks of it, they are just damage dealers, which, why use them when you have the 5-star equivalents that are just better? Is it worth the investment to go crazy into towards like leveling up any of these 3 when you have the 5 stars? You can use them alongside the other 5 stars. You are not restricted. So in the future, we can have like literally a full team of Kaiju 8, which is kind of cool. But when it comes towards these 3 a little bit is, yeah, just they are just damage dealers. They don't add anything special. There's no reason to actually bring them other than them just being damage dealers. There's nothing you need that other 5 stars don't do. So for me, that is what kind of we're ranking them. No one in detail. So arguably, we could have, moved down the SS, so everyone's just down 1 tier, remove the SS, but having legendaries in B tier didn't sit right with me. So guys, that is our day one official Kaiju 8 tier list. Let me know what you lot think. Like I just say, this is just a general tier list little bit. Once we get towards the nitty gritty, we get everyone's up to level 80. We start mid-maxing weapons and start maxing out gear and start optimizing characters kits. That is where I think like Hoshino. To be fair, you could even argue just moving up all these ones, right? Because they are all 5 stars, they are usable. But I do want to separate them a little bit because I think these like this general use characters you're going to use everywhere. You can still use them, but boss killers, and in these ones you can still use as well. So, I mean, in that sense, like you can, yeah, like I said, you can just move them up, but I kind of want to separate them a little bit. So, guys, thank you for watching the video. If you have made this far, leave a like, subscribe, and yeah.